I'll make it very brief. The very objective of this workshop on anthropology is to make you very familiar with the syllabus, with the subject, and to give you a glimpse of how me and my associate Rajshekhar sir will teach the subject to you. Okay? So, before we proceed, mostly you are very familiar with a few things, right? In the context of optional subject, there are some criteria which are used by the students to decide what option they want to pursue for UPSC mains. Now, if I were in your position, the first aspect I would be considering is nature of your optional subject. When I say nature of your optional subject, my interest is on the difficulty level. Now, when I say difficulty level, the word difficulty is always relative in nature. For example, if I ask you, which is the toughest GS module for you till date? You might have heard polity, economy, history, geography, environment, S&T, right? Which is tough, relatively? Economy. Always economy faculty has to take the blame. Okay, fine. So, economy is the toughest. Which is easiest? Polity. I hope you are not from lawyer's background, right? Okay, fine. Why this is relatively tough, this is relatively easy? Because of nature of the subject. Polity you might be hearing very frequently. What is legislature, parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. But if I say in economy, there is something called as a monetary policy trilemma or COD issue, or if I say liquidity trap. These words might sound like a Greek and alien to you, right? That means it is all about familiarity and difficulty. How do you make this difficult option relatively easy? I'll give an example. Whenever you heard something for the first time, it might scare you, right? You might not even able to pronounce the way it should be pronounced, right? If I say, what is inflation? Before joining this course here, how many of you understand what is inflation, the definition for inflation? Very less, I guess. What is amendment? Before joining course here, you may not know what is amendment. But today if I ask you what is amendment, what is union list, what is 5th schedule, 10th schedule, are you very familiar with those terminologies? At least I hope yes, right? Why you are very familiar now, which you are not familiar some time ago? Simple, you are hearing it more frequently, am I right? The moment you hear something more frequently, you just get used to it. When you get used to anything, it seems to be easy. This is the logic. Now, to begin with, how anthropology is a right optional for UPSC. Or if I have to rephrase, why anthropology optional is right optional for your mains? My answer would be, it is relatively easy, first point to begin with. Second, it has got defined syllabus. What do you mean by defined syllabus? Whatever syllabus given here, everything, you don't get most of the times questions out of these syllabus lines. Say for example here, we can see chromosomal aberrations. N number of times the same phrases were cut and pasted by UPSC in question papers. That means I am trying to bring to your notice one particular thing, that questions are in mains direct in nature. What do you mean by direct in nature? Whatever me or sir teach you in the class, once we're done with the topic, we try to discuss PYQs from the topic asked in the exams, right? We try to give you the framework of the answer. We try to help you to identify what should be written in introduction, in the body and in the conclusion. where to add case studies, where to add some flowcharts. That means whatever exercise we are doing in the classroom itself, that is more than sufficient to answer these questions in the exam. As a result, what happens? You don't need to innovate anything. Now, I just want to know how many of you tried answer writing till date? Okay, fair enough, good. Any difficulty in answer writing? What difficulty? For example, I'll give you two types of questions. One, very syllabus based question, one purely based on current affairs. Which question you find it difficult to write? Current affairs based question. Why? Because you need to think and you need to make a framework in your mind, and then you need to structure your answer, and then you need to do some value addition, right? Everything should be done by you, right? Within that moment. But as far as anthropology is concerned, what all you're supposed to do in the examination hall, that is already taught you in the classroom. That means you are already familiar with the structure of the answer. If the same question was asked by UPSC, do we innovate or should we innovate there? Is there any necessity? How? There is no necessity to innovate, because whatever you are going to write in the mains, that is already discussed in the classroom in a very detailed manner. Now the question is, how do you know the same questions will be asked by UPSC, right? That should be the question. Now, my next answer is, check syllabus line by line and also check PYQs from 2013. You understand nature of questions. That means how questions are being asked by UPSC. The moment you understand nature of questions, you should divide them into two. One is direct, the other one is indirect. You find these kind of questions more in number than these questions. As a result, what happens? The chances of completing the question paper is more. When you're completing the question paper, that means attempting every question you're supposed to, your marks will increase predominantly. I'll share my experience. I did my civil engineering. How many of you are engineers in the class? Oh, good number. Good. Anybody from biology background? Doctor? Microbiology. So, how many of engineers think that anthropology is not for engineers? Never? Acha, you? Why? It is not familiar. So, I addressed the familiarity question. So, you're talking to that person, or that person is addressing to you, who has only know how to draw a diagram of fish in his 10th standard. Apart from this, I don't know anything. But I am here. My highest score is 296 out of 500. I scored 160 in paper 1. What do you mean by this? When an engineer like me, I am sure you are more intelligent than me. So when I could get this many marks, you had more chances to cross 300 plus. And who will cross this 300 plus? As I said earlier, whoever has got good understanding regarding the syllabus plus PYQs, right? And very important thing, who attends the classes without fail. I know that very early enthusiasm, it will die off very soon. In the beginning, you attend in more number. By the end of the course, half of the strength is missing in the class, and you believe that you can manage yourself the optional preparation. That is not how things go. I'll give an example of my student. She is from Bangalore, married woman, last attempt. She shifted from geography to anthropology. Married woman, she got kids. I hope you understand the responsibilities and the time factor, right? Now, just 3 months. She has taken mentorship and her score is 302. and lot of credit goes to student, not to the faculty. Why? Me, sir, we say several things to several students. It depends on the student whether to listen to that, follow religiously and implement it, come to us frequently, get your answers evaluated. Only then this is a possibility. So my question is, before you decide optional, consider the following criteria. Check the syllabus, PYQs, material availability, and the quality of classroom teaching. This is very, very important. The reason being, the moment you qualify prelims, and once you are classroom student of anthropology here, we don't leave your hand till you find in your name in UPSC finalist. Till you are here, we will support you, provided you should have this kind of enthusiasm. What do you mean by this enthusiasm? The urge to learn, the urge to get better, the urge to write more and get good score. And consistently, if you see, in top 10 rankings, consistently, how many of students are from anthropology background, optional background? Never saw top 10 ranks. Some big names in the industry. At least you should, Uma Harati, right? So at least minimum 3 students will be there in top 10 every year. Top scores are seen. What is the highest score till date? In the last 5-6 years, it is hovering around 320 to 340. What do you mean by this? So when they are able to get this kind of score in optional subject, think about what you can achieve. So my next question would be, so why anthropology is the right option? I gave you some reasons. Now the question is, what is the role of current affairs? I'll give you some optional names where you need to add more of current affairs. To begin with, your PSIR, public administration. These options require what? A lot of current affairs and lot of interpretation. That means a lot of brainstorming should be done in these optionals. Relatively in anthropology, the role of current affairs is less. And whatever case studies we may refer in the classroom, largely those are standard case studies. If I have to say, around 10% should be the weightage of current affairs. More or less 10%, not beyond this. You take PSIR, you got IR, right? Majority of the IR is from current affairs. That means anthropology has got a relative advantage in not putting more burden on the student regarding integration of current affairs in your optional answers. Relatively, right? Next. Who can take anthropology as an optional? My answer would be anyone. Though this appears to be preposterous, but go home, give a thought, check the syllabus, you find it that it is a doable option. What do you mean a doable option? Anybody can crack this optional subject given some kind of enthusiasm and discipline in attending the classes, right? Now, apart from this, how we teach, me and sir together, how we teach. I hope sir is very familiar to you. You might have attended his GS classes. So I don't have to explain how good he teaches physical anthropology. So that is taken for granted. Since I am new to you, I'll introduce my teaching approach. For example, if you see the syllabus, do you get to see marriage chapter here? This is part of marriage, group marriage, functions of marriage, marriage regulations, preferential, prescriptive, proscriptive. Now, I'll try to help you how such topics are dealt in the class. I follow very interesting approach called framework approach. And what is the advantage of this framework approach? The way I teach the subject or the topic in the class, you have to write the same way in the examination hall. So I'm trying to make you very familiar with examination required skills in the classroom itself. To begin with, the question is types of marriage. I would begin with the definition of marriage. Then I would be beginning the next point with types of marriage. Now within this types of marriage, first one is based on number of spouse, and I divide this into two: monogamy and polygamy. I can further divide it into general monogamy, serial monogamy, and I can further divide polygamy into polyandry, polygyny, and polygynandry. So this is how you're supposed to present the answer if the question is discuss types of marriage. And for each type, why general monogamy? Again, in this case, I will be giving you the definition part, the reasons and examples, and these examples would be within India and outside India. That means other societies examples. Apart from this, next subheading in the topic is based on rules, and within based on rules you got first rule, prescriptive rule, and within prescriptive rule there are two types: exogamy, endogamy, and within here there are types. Here also there are different types with examples and case studies. Next we got preferential, and within this there are cousin marriages, there are anuloma, it is also called as hypergamy, pratiloma, it is also called as hypogamy. And apart from this, you do have levirate marriage, you do have sororate marriage, right? So that is about preferential rule. Third one is proscriptive. Within this you got only one type of marriage, that is incest taboo. So I started my answer where? Types of marriage. Within this, what did I see till now? Based on number of spouses, first criteria. Within this there are subcategories, and then second rule, prescriptive and preferential, and then it is proscriptive. Last variant, it is based on rarity. What is rarity? Abnormal thing, right? Which doesn't happen regularly in any given society or culture. First one would be uncle, niece marriage, ghost marriage, man-animal marriage. Next is adoptive marriage. Fifth one, monosexual marriage. And within this it is man-man, woman-woman. So this is about the basic framework of a particular topic in your syllabus. Now when I start my class, it begins with the definition, and this is how I approach the topic. Now how difficult it would be to understand and recollect the same in the examination hall? Is it easy or tough to study any particular topic if something is taught in this way? Isn't it relatively easy, or it is very difficult to understand? So this is how we are supposed to learn every topic in the form of a framework, right? Now apart from this, what else could be value additions, or how we are supposed to integrate current affairs here? Two topics in the contemporary times. One, are you familiar with something called as sologamy? A woman got married herself, right? that is sologamy, and here we are supposed to study the reasons, right? And next is, already in 2013 there was a question on live-in relationship by UPSC. These are most recent happenings, right? Apart from this, here also we can see this. So these would be current affairs relevant content in this context of types of marriage. And for each marriage, I'll give you, as I said, examples, and I'll discuss you some case studies, right? Once we're done with this, I'll give you a question, I'll give you time to write the answer, and accordingly we'll evaluate it. So this is how I teach, and this is how you're supposed to learn the subject. Okay, now apart from this, what else is required to consider anthropology as your optional? I'll give you two reasons. One, it has got very good textbooks, written by both foreign authors and Indian authors, and it has got very good material available, and trust me, your material prepared by Rajshekhar sir is too good, and it has got several pictographs. This makes your understanding easy, right? I hope you are able to understand the essence or the importance of good material and good textbooks, right? Apart from this, biggest reason why you're supposed to consider anthropology as your optional is, it is favoring anthropology optional. How do you know this? Consistently for the last 10 years, if at all there is one optional which is getting more services, from where students are getting into service in more number, undoubtedly that is your anthropology optional. Okay, so these are the reasons why you're supposed to consider anthropology as an optional, and the advantages you get once you join course here. As I said, we as a team, me and sir, will work together, and we try to ensure that if you are committed, you cross that 300 magic figure. Okay, so this is what I am proposed to share with you. That is why you called on a very short notice today. Now, before I give time to Rajshekhar sir, any doubts regarding the optional subject? Any simple doubt or any big doubt according to you? Yeah, go on.
How is anthropology different from sociology?
Very good. Anthropology studies man in totality. When I say totality, it studies socio-cultural aspects of man and biological aspects of man. Whereas your sociology studies only society, that too modern society across different geographies. So sociology is largely confined to study of your society, while anthropology is confined to study of man in totality. Relatively, this has got more wider scope than this, because in anthropology you study biological anthropology. Now, I'll give you some reasons to make you understand the difference. How many of you got families? Not on your own, at least you were born in a family, right? Why man make family, or why people marry? Why we walk but not our ancestors? All these interesting questions are answered in anthropology, and trust me, I forgot to mention, it will be surprising for you to know how interesting anthropology is as an optional. How interesting anthropology is as an optional. Now, as I said, why we are walking? When we walk, we are called as bipedals. Who are our ancestors? Chimpanzees. They are our ancestors. Are they walking like us? They are called quadrupedals. So these intriguing questions will be answered in anthropology with some substantial evidences backed by theories. So I hope I made your doubt very clear. Yeah, what else? Any other doubts?
Some difficulty level is increasing
Difficulty level is increasing. I'll bury, yeah, what else? I'll bury that narrative. How many of you have seen mains papers? Acha, what is the pattern? This is paper 1, right? There is a first question. Within this, A, B, C, D, E. These 5 are compulsory questions, right? Then you got question 2. Within this, A, B, C. And again you got third question, A, B, C. Fourth question, A, B, C. If this is compulsory, you are supposed to choose minimum 1 question among the 3. Imagine, this is very familiar. Deliberately examiner will give you tough questions here. Did you understand the intention of the examiner? Examiner deliberately want you to attempt this question. That is why, how do examiner make you to attempt this question deliberately? By giving unknown topics, at least not everything. C will be unknown to you, A, B will be familiar. C will be unknown, A, B will be familiar. But here, all the 3 will be familiar. What is the intention of giving question paper in this format? Now, if you ask me, how do you know? I know Nadeem Hasnan sir. Once he is an examiner of UPSC. And when I got my interview call, when I been to Delhi, I used to speak to retired examiners from UPSC. That is what they shared to me, and that is what I am sharing to you. Now tell me, how difficult it is. That means who will attempt this paper with a lot of ease? Whoever completes their syllabus. And surprisingly, we also focus these areas in the classroom. I'll give an example. Cultural lag is not part of anthropology. మీకు చెప్పాను హరీష్ ఇది మీ నెక్స్ట్ బ్యాచ్కి చెప్పాను. And next year there was a question. That means cultural lag is a concept lifted from socio. There is another topic called total institutions. This is also lifted from sociology. Last year there was a question on Ambedkar and caste. This we don't study in anthropology, but this is lifted from sociology. The point is, all these new areas that are being asked in the recent times, those are also covered in the classroom. So I don't find you finding difficulty in the exam. So this is how things happen. What else? You said UPSC might punish anthropology, right? Right? I'll bury that argument. See, why would any optional become so popular in UPSC? Simple, very good. Scores leads to ranks. Why? Public administration, political science and geography to some extent, they are punished by UPSC now. I'll give you the reason. All these courses were taken up in huge numbers in universities. When was the last time you heard somebody doing MA anthropology in any university? Very less. Very less. How do you promote students taking up anthropology at the level of universities? How do you promote anthropology to be considered as one of the career options in universities? Encourage this with more scores and more ranks. What happens? Because of this, what happens? Your option becomes more popular. Once your option becomes more popular, what is the advantage? Students community get to think that to pursue optional subject in UPSC, let me join MA Anthropology. That is how every social science gets some kind of student community so that research could be done in anthropology. For this example, People of India project is evidence. Now this is going on in the next phase. So as long as government want students to take up anthropology at university level, you don't have to find it difficult in UPSC. Anything else? Chat. Okay. On what date class starts? We can skip current affairs. So it is not like, you can skip current affairs. You need to read current affairs, but not the way you're supposed to read it for other options. That is why I ensure that my words are very carefully considered in sentence formation. I said relatively. I did not say nothing is required from current affairs. I said relatively you don't require more current affairs. Don't get confused, don't get carried away. And regarding classes, the timing of class, when we start the syllabus, course, you talk to the management front office and you get the information. Okay. So before I end up my session here, I invite Rajshekhar sir to take you forward regarding how you're supposed to prepare for physical anthropology, etc. Okay, come sir.
Right, a very good afternoon everyone. So as Sudhir sir already talked to you about why take anthropology as an optional compared to the other subjects, and some advantages related to the anthropology as an optional. Next we are going to briefly talk about the biological anthropology part, or which is also called as physical anthropology part. Okay, this is one concern that we keep hearing from students. When they come to us, they say, sir, I don't have a biology background. Can I still do well? Because people are little scared about the biological anthropology part. So yes, to some extent we should agree that this complicates your preparation little bit in this optional, because there is some technicalities, there's a complex ideas that we have to go through. And as sir was pointing out, in anthropology we study man in totality, right, which is biological, but is also an idea integrated into this concept. Where did we come from? How did we evolve to this kind of form today? From where did we come, how did we come, and why is that important in the current scenario? These things of course are explained in a scientific manner, which requires bit of understanding, but it doesn't mean that we have to get into the details of mechanisms related to that. So what needs to be studied here, and what should be our approach with respect to the physical anthropology part? First of all, we need to get the syllabus right? You understand the syllabus well, and you notice that for biological anthropology, which is primarily part of the paper 1, and if you see units 1 and also unit 9 to 12 is where this part is covered. In unit 1, you notice primarily the idea related to human evolution. Okay, how did we evolve from primates, let's say? What is our position there? What kind of characteristics we share with the other primates? What made us special? In what method that we handle things? In what way our intelligence has increased from them? There's a clear connection. There's a scientific evidences to that. There's a clear connection. So this is something you would have studied already at the high school level of human evolution. But specifically focusing on certain aspects, it could be theories related to human evolution, and it could be the evidences we have today, more even modern evidences, like genome sequencing studies are done to show this is how we are, this is when we actually turned into so and so species. Are there more species, less species? Are there more subvarieties like races in humans? Such questions we are trying to answer here, which are actually very interesting questions about our own selves. Okay, so theories, evidences related to that, and then we have a chapter that talks about primates. Again, why we study about primates? This was one of the older exam question. Why we have to study primates to understand humans? Because we evolved from them. They give us the link between the other animals and humans. So characteristics, some facts we study here, but they are visible to us. We observe them around. So listing those facts to understand about the connection to us and our ancestors becomes clear through primates. And then we'll talk about human species, other human species. Human species that existed once, but they're not there today. Because this again gives us a better idea about how we evolved. So what primates were and what are our ancestral species. So it actually gives a nice connection between how we became what we are today. That is the first theme. right? This is where students feel little difficulty because we have to remember lots of facts related to our ancestral species. But if you get the logic right, okay, like how our facial changes have taken place, how changes in our spine, how changes in our brain has taken place. The problem here knowing those facts, but once you put them into the context, they become easy. Anything, if you teach me economy, first few days I find it so difficult because those terms are very new to me. But when you get the right context of that, when you keep thinking about it and keep reading about it, they become easy for you. You feel related to it. And that learning is a requirement in UPSC exam. Correct? But once you put the logic into it, this becomes easy for you. And that is where my expertise comes into the picture because I'm trained as a biologist. Okay, I've worked as a researcher for many years. And my goal is always to simplify things because I want, the reason why I did my PhD is to actually visualize things. The main motivation for me is to become a good teacher. 20 years ago when I started my teaching career in Bangalore as a teacher in biology and life sciences, I felt there's so much that I need to understand first to teach students. That was my main motivation to go for PhD in abroad. Where I learned, how to relate because these are all things that are something that we see every day, something that we, relate every day. But if a teacher can bring that to you and it doesn't become a problem, that is where we are lagging behind. When I came to Hyderabad 8 years ago and when I was brought here by the same Harsha sir who was teaching, with the idea that, sir, we are learning anthropology from many teachers here, but they're not giving us a clear idea of physical anthropology. They say it's okay, it is not important. They were skipping it because they didn't have an understanding. It requires a good depth to explain those kind of things. So that is where I fit in. Where I had great learning related to genomics, DNA fingerprinting. We talk about molecular genetics. We talk about cloning. So those aspects that we study in depth. And I know, being in the teaching for last 8 years related to UPSC after analyzing papers, we require that visualization. We don't need all those great details, but how do you write an answer? What questions are coming in the exam? How with that clarity I can write an answer? Most of the students, the main reference book for them in market for physical anthropology is written by Peanut. And unfortunately, we have to say that it's a collection of facts where it cannot generate interest in you. When you start reading the material, it's list of facts which you are not able to relate to. So what we need to do here, we actually need to logically understand them and make notes and put them into the context of what is being given in the exam. So your answers are getting ready already in the classroom. It's just the matter of, as Sudhir sir said, attend the class, follow the idea, make your notes, follow the material structure we have given, your answers are ready. Just with certain amount of effort from you, you are more confident. And I have seen that in many batches, especially in science and technology, because we also see a lot of correlation between science and technology and the ideas we are studying in the second part. I have seen students feeling, sir, I'm very afraid of this subject because it is too difficult. And when I asked them towards the end of the classes, they said, sir, I feel so confident about this now, I can write so well. This is what we want as teachers. We want to walk you through that journey and make you feel, yes, we can do it. When we do it together, and you will see how easy it becomes. And do you think without putting efforts, any optional will become easy for you? How much amount of work you have to put into studying theories in sociology optionals, think about. Here it is more relatable. It's much easier to follow. There is a complexity that we need to overcome. That is our job. We'll simplify it for you. We'll make you understand it. We'll make you write in the manner that you can reproduce in the exam. And yes, there's a possibility for innovation. Definitely. Because how do we stand out? Your understanding will make you special. And that everybody has to put their own effort. Next, we have unit 9 where human genetics part. If you notice here, in human genetics part, we talk about what makes us. Like it is our DNA, right? You all know we have a software inside our body. Our software is our DNA. Every cell has its own software. Just like our mobile phones. And how do they work? We need to understand. Oh, there may be a program written. How does that program work? When we have DNA, which we receive from our parents, we put them into a copy of message called messenger RNA. And that message will help produce proteins. Proteins are the end molecules that help us work. We are able to breathe today, okay? And we are able to survive today because this oxygen is carried by something called hemoglobin to various parts of the body. This is something we know. We get tests done on hemoglobin. We study about variations in hemoglobin. How do you study human population? We all carry more or less same proteins. We all actually carry same proteins with tiny variations here and there. Why are those variations? Those variations may be helping some people to survive in some environment. That is what you study here. Molecular level, what variations are happening. At population level, how those variations are operating. If someone lives in a mountain region, how such variations are supporting them. So this is talking about biological version of human evolution. And then there is a debate because people started discriminating people because they look different. Okay? Concept of racism had started, differentiating people based on this. But biologically, if you get into the depth of it, we are actually much more similar than what we think. So where is a differentiation coming from? It is coming from our psychological aspects. Biological aspects are proving no, we are wrong. We are very same. We probably have all originated from Africans. Our ancestors who were living at one time in Africa. The clear connections. That is what biological anthropology can do. It can bring in evidences that nobody can deny. Our DNA doesn't lie. Our DNA is so stable. We are studying those details in physical anthropology part. How we adjust, where do we adjust, what kind of changes that happen inside our body, individually how we are, population level how we are. Okay, what is the use of all this understanding? We have something called applied anthropology. When you understand human differences, we can create better diagnostic methods. We have a big project going on in India, Genome India project, right, where we are learning about thousands of Indians and their DNA so that we have our own reference genome map. And these things you also study in science and technology. It becomes a revision for those students who are taking up anthropology as optional. And when you are listening to these things in different contexts, and the understanding levels will be much better. So we talk about biotechnology and science and technology for about a week. There we discuss about PCR, we discuss about DNA fingerprinting. There we discuss about DNA markers, etc. Those things are covered in anthropology. So that familiarity part is also addressed because anyway, whatever optional you take, you are studying some of these ideas in science and technology classes. Okay, yes, we agree, there is a complexity. And that is where, when we have good teachers, you can stand out because you can understand those topics. I have seen that in many of my students who said, sir, I am very confident, now I understand, now I can visualize. It's a matter of only practicing how to write well. So if teachers can do it and bring it to you, will that become easy for you or not? Okay, and we'll see that. You probably are, some of you have just started teaching, so you will see that in few weeks, how well we can manage it. And more than that, as Ramababu sir clearly said, they want us to be available to you, so that we are actually hand-holding you and taking to that final stage. So we have all the resources here. It's just a matter of understanding the syllabus well, coming to the classes regularly, and trying to answer the questions with the framework that we have given to you. So will that be sufficient for you? Will that give you confidence that as a student with this optional, with this amount of scope, that you can make use of it and do well in the exam? What do you think? What else do you expect from us? Because we believe, because we have gone through these phases ourselves, we believe this is the kind of work that we provide for you should satisfy all your requirements. Anybody still have, because I generally ask this question, anybody who hates biology? There are many of us who did. It's because sometimes we don't understand, we don't relate. It is a job of a teacher to do it. And today I like many things because of my teachers. And we are doing the same. Okay, and coming to that question, I would like to answer that question like, are they making anthropology more difficult? Is exam getting difficult? You take 2 papers, maybe last year paper, 4 years before paper, and you read it yourself. They're only phrasing the questions differently. The actual questions have not changed. We can give you from each chapter what kind of questions have been asked. They are the same questions that are repeating in every exam. They may be rephrasing it. If student is not reaching to a level of understanding rephrased question, then we have not done enough work. That is what we should do in the class. So it is not getting difficult. There will be some logistics, to make it more equivalent to the other optionals. But still we have a greater advantage because it is a very interesting subject. And because you are already putting some amount of work in society, you are talking about some of the things in economy, some of the things in science and technology, there is a good overlap. And doable current affairs. Are you not studying current affairs for prelims? Without current affairs, we can't clear prelims, we know it. It's just connecting to the subject. When you have an understanding of the subject, connecting will become easy. So you are not doing any new kind of work in terms of current affairs, particularly for anthropology. Most of the work anyway you are doing for the other subjects. So even that problem is not there. At least, till the time, even if they want to make it difficult, we can enjoy this luxury of quickly studying, picking it up and getting our job done. Right? And given that physical anthropology is a little complex, I always use images. My method of teaching, where I show images, where I see the connections. And I always like students to summarize it well and structure it well. So all that work will happen in the class. Okay, I think I don't want to take much more time, but this is what I can tell you from the physical anthropology part.